how many farms do you have? 20?
We have about 25 different locations where we're growing at, and every single farm has its own location, obviously, because they're in different areas. Different style, purpose. Some of them are rooftop gardens, some are right in the sidewalk space, some are in a vacant lot. They're just, each garden is trying to utilize vacant space that otherwise would not be growing produce, and we're able to activate that space in some way, shape, or form.
Welcome to the 12 steps to become an urban or vertical farmer. This series brings you the structured stories of many different urban and vertical farmers from around the world and the 12 steps they had to take to become successful. This interview is with Niraj Ray, the driving force behind Cultivate the City in Washington, D.C. With his love for healthy and local food, he has started up more than 25 urban farms and a community network around it. Niraj has been in the urban farming scene for many years and has an enormous amount of interesting insights into the craft. Enjoy and learn from the best. So Niraj, why do you farm, man?
Because I enjoy it.
Why do I do it? You enjoy it?
It's fun.
Really?
Keeps me active, keeps me out of trouble.
What would you be doing if you were not farming? You know?
I would be farming, so that's why. So might as well try to get paid doing it, right?
That's true.
Because I would have a garden regardless. It's a skill set that once you get, it seems foolish to not do it.
True.
I also don't want to become a food business. I would much rather create a network of farmers and people who are growing for themselves and creating a local food industry.
Right. I like that.
The bigger one person gets, I mean, you're just creating more food system problems. Like if I become super awesome and I have a 400,000 square foot indoor growing facility and I'm shipping food to New York, that's again another food problem, in my opinion. It should be a local food industry. That food and the money from that food stays in the local community.
Yeah. I like that very much, Niraj. Thank you for that.
Cultivate the city.
Let's cultivate the city.
Go to another city, help them create that same network. But
that's what this video is for. Hey Niraj.
Hello.
We are here at one of your school gardens.
Yep, this is J.O. Wilson Elementary School.
So how did you find these guys?
So one of my former coworkers when I used to work at the EPA lived just across the street, and he was helping maintain their school garden at the time, and they needed assistance in maintaining it. Seemed like a good time, so I needed space to grow.
It's just how it happened.
Yep.
Was that the first Cultivate the City
yeah, I mean, this was before Cultivate the City. This is when I was first figuring out what I wanted to do with urban farming, and I wrote a grant application to fund the installation of a small garden here, and that's what eventually got me started and wanting to grow more and more food and create a CSA program, find more sites, things like that.
So this is history.
Yep.
History of Cultivate the City. What happened after that?
Many things. I started getting approached by other schools, other people that wanted vertical farms for their backyards, for their gardens. And eventually I got looped in by one of the parents at this school with the owner of the hardware store, and that's how we eventually started H Street Farms as a rooftop venture between us and the hardware store below.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Tell me about your background. What did you study and what did you need to learn before doing Cultivate the City?
So my background's in integrated environmental science. That's at least what I went to school for. The good thing is I have a strong science background as well, and I think that suited me well for urban ag just in general. I have an inquisitive mind. I like experiments. I think those skills naturally made urban ag a good fit. I strongly believe that, especially with urban farming, that as long as you have the desire to learn, you'll find out what you need to know to grow. And if not, those are all learning lessons. That's how you get better at growing farming, especially as people are exploring new environments, like even growing underground. There's only so much experience you can cull from other people. And first-hand experience, I think, is the best teacher. So once you get growing, that's how you get better at it. Start to learn from every growing season, the mistakes you inevitably make.
A very interesting question, I think, is how, because you have so many different crops, how do you choose your crops?
So every year, I really decide at the end of the year what I'm going to grow for the following year, and I try and grow what produces better, what sells better, what I actually have a market to grow for. The first part is actually growing, so I may have a market for a plant, but if I can't grow it successfully, it doesn't make sense for me to double down and grow more of it the following year. So first the plant has to grow well, and then afterwards there has to be a market for me to actually sell it to. And every year I also try to experiment with 3 or 4 new things that I feel I may have a market for, but it's a trial to see whether or not I will grow.
How do you make money? How do you make money with Cultivate?
There's a few different avenues, streams of income. One is obviously selling the produce itself when we're growing it. We have a CSA program, and we also sell to restaurants, so we sell our produce that way from what we're growing. We also sell starter plants, both wholesale, business to business, to other urban farming companies, other farms in the area. And then we also sell retail plants. That's the point of the garden center, to really create that retail channel for selling everything that we do.
What's the biggest one?
The biggest plant that sells? Basil.
Income stream.
Oh, the biggest income? We didn't have any, we got through all the income streams.
Okay, keep on going.
We just talked about it, 2 ways of selling produce. There's the plants themselves. Then we also do design build for different clients where they have a certain space that they want us to build out a farm or garden for them. There's maintenance contracts. So after we build a garden for someone, it's maintaining their garden consistently, coming every week, 2 weeks. There's educational programming, so we do classes at all of our gardens, at the garden center. We do social events, like for example, we have drinking events, not drinking events, but we work with the bars, for example, there you go. The bars that we work with, we host social events there where a portion of their proceeds go back to funding programming through that farm that's working with that bar. We have mentorship programming, entrepreneurship training, teaching. So we teach a lot of classes at elementary schools, high schools, colleges, and just as other professors get paid, we get paid as well for teaching.
Which is the most important income?
You need them all. I think if you're going to be a successful urban agriculture business, you cannot it's just impossible mathematically to grow enough to sustain yourself. I think that with certain changes in technology, and yes, one day it may be possible, but with the current options that are available to most farmers, the best way to be a successful urban farmer is to rely on multiple streams of income. So with different schools, we have different arrangements. Some of them do pay us a fee to help maintain the garden, help provide classes, educational support, things like that. Mm-hmm. Materials, resources, you have to get soil, you have to get pots, seeds, things like that. So we provide that for a lot of the schools that we work with. This school in particular, we don't have a financial arrangement in place yet. They're trying to figure out how to fund the programming. In the meanwhile, what we do is we provide a market, and we help the students at the school actually set up their own CSA. They sell the produce that's growing in these gardens to local community members, faculty, staff, things like that. And that helps generate a little bit of income to maintain programming here.
That's cool.
You haven't heard of any farmer that's got rich, but you hear a lot of food companies that are family-based, and like Knoll's Farm or Smucker's. like these are all family names, and they got famous and they made their money through a finished food product.
Yeah.
And that's how you make money. You don't make money growing and selling produce, because then the conversation is, how much do my strawberries cost, how much do yours cost, and why isn't it cheaper? Whereas when you're making strawberry basil ginger shrub, where else are they going to buy that?
Yeah,
it's a product. Right. It's the same thing like when you go to the store and you want Tabasco hot sauce. You don't say how much, like, until there's more competitors in the field. Like, that's a very unique product, and people pay what they see fit for it. And it's just a different conversation when you're talking about finished food products. So,
and is that where Cultivate the City is going to head?
I like showing people that cottage food industry, and my goal is to support more people in growing food.
Now, you said you're not paying yourself a salary. What's the plan in the future for, like, do you think that this will eventually become sufficient?
Oh, I think I'm at the point where I can pay myself a salary.
Okay.
Like, I have a staff of about, I have one full-time person, and then 4 to 6 part-time people that sometimes function as full-times. So it's more so I just want to make sure I'm in a comfortable place.
Yeah.
I haven't taken any investment and things like that.
But it will become a full-time job for sure.
Yeah, I mean it's more than a full-time job right now,
Yeah.
and like most of my living expenses I'm able to cover.
Okay.
Just because everything I do is the company, so
Yeah.
that kind of helps. So as long as I'm eating well, which is a good part, that's another thing with this skill set. You eat well.
That is true. Who are your main customers?
Anyone who eats.
Okay.
If you stop eating, you're no longer our customer.
Okay, and do you do marketing to sell your produce?
Not as much as we could. Most of the marketing we do is through word of mouth. We market to our previous customers by showing them the new products we're working on, but we don't do much outside marketing yet.
Like the only thing is Facebook or?
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, the stuff that we can do within our budget. In terms of hardcore advertising, things that would actually require a little bit more investment, we haven't had the budget to support that yet.
And how much time and budget goes into the Facebook, Instagram?
Whatever spare time we have, right? That's always laying around, right? We all have spare time.
Well, yeah, it's true.
I'm being sarcastic there.
Okay, and did you do the history of this garden here?
Yeah.
Because that just happened, and Cultivate the City grew out of that. Did you do any market research along the road? Like what would work for the community, or did it all happen like kind of organically?
I mean, we regularly do market research. Like we always ask people, especially at the different schools, we ask the parents what they would like to see growing in the garden, what they would be more drawn to. We do a lot of surveys before and after the classes that we give, and we're always trying to incorporate feedback wherever we can get it into our business model. But this is such a new field that it's really hard to gauge what people want before they have access to it. So sometimes it's providing people access to these fresh food resources, the ability to volunteer at a garden once a week, things like that, which they may have never even known about before. And then you kind of figure out who's a better fit for it, finding who are your clients.
Yeah, so it's like learning along the road.
Yep.
And asking feedback, just a lot of feedback. Interesting.
Right.
So Niraj, for Cultivate the City, you have a lot of partners because you kind of have to have a lot of partners. But who are your main ones, and what problems or issues or things do they help you address, and what do they help you create?
I mean, we have partners in all different capacities. Some of the partners are for location, space to grow. Some of the partners help us market our produce better. Some of our restaurants that we sell our produce to, we do different engagement classes with them and their regular clients. Some of them are corporate groups like the Nationals, where we help maintain a garden for them.
The Nationals are the baseball.
Yep, the Nationals baseball team. And they have a stadium. Cool. We have a rooftop garden for them. They use the produce in their food services and dining, and we help create the messaging for them around what they're helping create.
So, Niraj, the location and architecture of your farm, as you have, like, how many farms do you have? 20?
We have about 25 different locations where we're growing at, and every single farm has its own location, obviously, because they're in different areas. Different style, purpose. Some of them are rooftop gardens, some are right in the sidewalk space, some are in a vacant lot. They're just, each garden is trying to utilize vacant space that otherwise would not be growing produce, and we're able to activate that space in some way, shape, or form.
So which one of all the farms and locations you have would you think is the most interesting location, and why?
I think each location has its own draw. I would say the two top locations are probably our garden center, which is on the rooftop of a hardware store, and to me that is the center of our wheel. We have 25 different sites, they all grow different things, but this garden center is the only place where we can retail and actually create an event space and have more of an inclusive community at this one location. It's a great space to begin with, and it's a very unique space. The other one would be the rooftop farm for the Washington Nationals. That's another very unique space to grow. It's creative space making. You wouldn't normally think that there is a farm at a professional sports stadium. But now you're able to, people who may otherwise not be interested in urban farming will see corn, tomatoes, peppers, things that they're seeing in the food they're eating at the stadium growing right there, and that just sparks a different conversation. It gets people to think about what vacant space do they have in their own home or around where they live where they can start growing food. And to me, that's really, in an urban atmosphere, that is what you're trying to create. People who are re-envisioning how we're building our built environment and how we have that support us, the environment, and the economy.
All right, and then about the location, also very important is, you just talked about 2 rooftop farms. What is important to know about a rooftop before we can farm on it?
Number one is weight. How much weight can it support? Because there's no point in a rooftop if it collapses. Doesn't matter how many tomatoes you're growing on that rooftop. If it collapses, that's a detriment for everyone.
True.
So I would say weight load is your number one concern. Number 2 is access to the rooftop. Can you get water up there easily? Is there water access on the rooftop? And number 2, how do you get produce down? These are some relatively simple things when you're on the ground you don't have to worry about. When you're on a rooftop, getting soil up there, there's many challenges if you don't have easy access to a rooftop.
Another one?
Another one is probably light conditions. If you have something shading your rooftop, luckily here in DC, pretty much every single rooftop gets full sun. It's part of the reason why we've started our business here. In New York, Chicago, other highly developed cities, you may have to do some kind of light assessment to see how much sunlight you're getting on your rooftop, and if you can grow crops like tomatoes and strawberries, or if you should be limiting yourself more to herbs, greens, things that can thrive under low light conditions.
That makes a lot of sense. But if you would have like a super shady area, wouldn't it just be the solution to grow plants that grow good in shade?
But you need to come to that conclusion first. You need to know whether or not your space is low light or high light, and what you can grow. There's no point in growing basil in a place that needs high light conditions, or that has low light conditions, because your basil isn't going to perform as well. So you need to cater what you're growing to where you're growing.
So the 3 lessons are weight. Second one was, I already forgot.
I'm gonna have to go back.
Wait, weight, access, and third one is light. Rooftop, weight, access, and light. Remember that.
All important.
Niraj,
How's it going?
how long does it take to build a thing like this?
I mean, building it is the easy part. The growing effective, building it took us less than 2 weeks. But it's actual growing, figuring out what grows better on this rooftop. Every rooftop also has its own microclimate. So depending on the sun and where we're able to grow stuff. This year we've definitely figured out what crops grow better. And next year we'll hopefully be able to optimize the actual production that we're getting off the rooftop. This past year I think it was close to 3,000 pounds. We should be able to get a lot more than that. I think we can get up to 8 to 10,000 next year, but it's really growing the right crops, the things that we can produce here. Tomatoes do not do well on this rooftop. It gets way too hot, they tend to topple over. Once they hit the ground, they fry. We found peppers, cucumbers, they do a lot better. A lot of the leafy greens, root crops like carrots, radishes, things like that, very quick turnover. So yeah, we should be able to grow a lot more next year.
Financing, you want to start a rooftop farm or an urban farm. Where do you get your money?
Start growing plants, sell it, make money.
Okay, but you have like a big rooftop farm and you need some investment to outfit the roof for, let's say, 2,000 square meter, that's 20,000 square foot. So how do you get financing for your farm?
I think there's many avenues. I think the number one step is being a skilled grower. There's no point in driving a Ferrari if you don't have a driver's license, right? What good is having a $20 million investment in a building if you don't know how to grow? And so to me, that's the number one thing I tell anyone. It's first start growing. Don't let a lack of investment prohibit you from growing.
That's true.
First start getting the tools that you need to be an efficient grower. Once you have that, you will be able to find partners. You'll be able to leverage your own skills to get to the space that you need to make it cost effective. But until you have that skill set, why throw money away?
And if your skill set is marketing, for example, you would need a grower to help you with that farm.
It's knowing what you're good at.
Know what you're good at, build on that.
Yep.
Basic wisdom. Very important wisdom though. I think many people actually don't really realize this. So let's make a social media video out of this one.
All right. Well, there you go.
So build on your skill set, right? Build on your skill set. If you want to grow.
Just get started.
Get started. Just do it. Or is that's Nike?
That's Nike.
Oh shit.
Next try.
I think Nike just kind of stole that one from everybody.
It's possible.
Let's take that back. Just do it. Just do it. Urban farming. Niraj, you have 20, how many, 20?
About 25.
25 farms. Is there any regulations, policies, laws that kind of annoy you or kind of make it difficult for you?
Not necessarily. We have a really unique space here in DC where we're not subject to as many legislations. We have a little bit more wiggle room. But at the end of the day, with urban ag, it's such a new entrance into a lot of different markets that there isn't as much regulation around it. It's kind of like the Wild West of a lot of things, that there's a lot more opportunity, and we are making our own opportunity. So I don't feel like there are many restrictions on what we're doing, especially the way that we're doing it. I'm not trying to sell to grocery stores. I'm not trying to go through a lot of the FDA regulations that I would be subject to in reselling stuff.
It's food safety, right?
Yep.
Yeah, food safety.
So things like that we don't necessarily have to worry about at this stage. Should we have one large facility later on down the road, it may be worthwhile to explore GAP certification and other things. But as of right now, we haven't had much yellow red tape in our way.
What's yellow red tape?
Yellow or red tape, just yellow's caution, red is do not enter. Okay. So things that are telling us that we're creating obstacles for us legislation-wise. That we have lots of financial, skill-wise, like there's lots of other hurdles to a small business. But I feel like legislation hasn't necessarily held us back in DC.
Do you know of other places where it's held people back to do urban farming?
Well, I would say there's always things that can make urban ag easier, and there are other municipalities that have more legislation in place that makes it easier. Even in DC, there's the Urban Ag and Food Security Act, and only part of it is funded. So I don't know how pertinent this is to everyone. To me, policy is a very local thing, and this is a whole different conversation. We probably shouldn't.
Should I talk to a lawyer about this?
I think that everyone's policy is locally different. Just moaning about the way policy doesn't support things doesn't really create that change in policy. You have to make policy important.
Just do it. Kind of, again, just do it.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Yep.
And now work with.
There's lots of people that talk about policy and do not generate a single dime. So where does that money come from? It's coming from the people who are working.
Wait, what do you mean with that?
It's a waste of time.
But
welcome to DC.
Too much policy, you mean?
Yeah.
There needs to be like.
I mean, when policy is about safety, yes. When policy is about where do.
Well, at the AVF summit, there was a dude who said, like, we will feed 100 people with the catering right now, and only 3 people will get sick from the 100 people. And he made a point there, just saying, kind of, if we would not have food safety or regulations, more people would get sick.
Would they though?
That's a good question.
I mean, just think about how food is generated. We have a war against microorganisms. They're the way that our natural. Again, we're not talking about policy anymore, but this has to do with like pasteurization. Like there's many things that you can do, many things to build up your own internal resistance. This goes back to the same thing when we were talking about apples. And if you're spraying it with anti-fungicides, does it have a chance to develop an immune system? No. So we are basically handicapping ourselves from the very beginning with this war on microorganisms and like not.
That makes a lot of sense because in Ghent, there's like part of our movement, our food movement, is about effective microorganisms, like inserting the good microorganisms that will help create a safe environment.
But if you didn't salt the field, so to speak, why would you have to inoculate it with good bacteria? It's because you destroyed everything, and it's through the modern medicine. Antibiotics are supposed to kill all of your internal biota. Do you think any of our ancestors took something that killed off everything? They may have died, and that killed off everything inside of them. But there's internal there's many. It's an ecosystem living inside of us as well. And when you flush it out, now you have to rebuild that entire ecosystem.
It is the same with our food system.
Yep.
We need to rebuild all the effective organisms, fungi, microorganisms, animals, plants.
There you go.
That makes complete sense. Niraj, you're kind of closing the loop on ideas here.
There you go.
You have thought about this, haven't you?
Sometimes. Maybe.
So when did it all change for you? When was it like the big?
There is no big moment. You just keep working. What do you mean? When what changed?
Keep working and learning. Or
yeah.
I did not learn everything I know when I was born.
And
like I was born in an industrial food system.
But there is no instant when I learned everything. Learning is a gradual process, right? Is there?
So full of wisdom you are.
You don't just get your diploma and that's what makes you graduate. It's because you learned. It took you. It's a process, and there is no trick to learning. It's trying, failing, trying again, trying, failing, even succeeding.
Yeah.
Every so often, you need those successes in there.
We're making a very important video. It's about urban farming. Urban farming. It's the future. Hello. So Niraj, you have like 25 different urban farms all around Washington DC. That means I think you're like the person with the most experience in starting up an urban farm. That makes you like, do you know?
Not at all. Not at all.
Do you know someone who has started up more urban farms than you?
I do not personally, but actually I believe that gentleman that we met earlier this weekend in New Orleans, he has 30 farms down there. So that's one person that has more than me.
Damn it.
No, there's a lot of people out there.
Second to
Numbers are easy to accumulate. Numbers mean nothing.
Niraj, if I want to start my urban or vertical farm, do you have like some mega like advice for me?
I already gave it to you.
What is it?
Just do it. What's holding you back? Why don't you have a garden?
That's a good question. There's a reason I give myself.
What's the excuse you're telling yourself?
The excuse is I feel like this is the same reason why I am not having children at the moment. I feel like I would not take care of them good enough at this point in time.
So why don't you grow things that are more resilient?
Well, I have
You just don't want to.
I have
Just admit
avocado
it.
plants. I have a papaya plant. I have a pineapple.
Do you take care of them?
I take very much care of them. They're-
Okay, so then why can't you have a garden?
That's true.
You probably know how to take care of things.
Yeah, I like taking care of things.
Okay.
I do, I take part in a urban farm in Ghent.
So you have a garden.
I do kind of have it, but it's a shared garden.
That's okay. Everything's shared in this world. That's
All
fine.
right.
But do you see where I'm going?
Yeah, I see where you're going.
If you want a garden, there's nothing holding you back. Just do
He's
it.
truly a teacher, this guy. He's teaching me.
Just guard it.
Okay, so final advice from Niraj Ray to everybody who wants to start an urban or vertical farm is
Start it.
start it.
There you go.
Beautiful. Thank you, Niraj,
No
for
problem.
this guidance and wisdom.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for the beautiful music.